Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 12.3's Z School for Zoho. This is session 20.21, I believe. Lose count. Doesn't matter. We've done 21 of these. Today's topic is Zoho Analytics, which is Zoho's business intelligence module. Analytics is a complicated, it's what database analysts do. It can't really be taught in a half hour. But I want to talk about some of the capabilities and some of the little tricks, encourage people to use it, and explain what it is, because you have it if you have Zoho One. And even if you buy it as a separate product, it can become a reporting platform for the entire business, even for data that's not Zoho. It's similar to things like Microsoft Power BI. BI in a database world stands for business intelligence. Business intelligence is just an expensive report. That's a reporting system. So I'm in our trial account, which does not have a lot of data. I'm not going to see a lot of astounding results from this data because this is just where we play and we do our training. And in this account, I've already turned on analytics. Like every other Zoho app, the admin has to go in to the admin panel, go into applications, and if analytics hasn't been turned on, turn it on, and then assign it to people who use it. You want to be a little careful with data because this is data. For instance, if it was accounting data or payroll data, anybody who has access to this application could theoretically go in and look at the data. So you want to manage your users a little bit. So we have added analytics here. Normally you'd go to add application, add the application, and two of our users here have access to analytics. Analytics has a thing called a super admin, and there can only be one. Some of the important things need to be done as that person. So if I show you something today and you can't do it, it's probably because you're not the super admin. So we'll go into Zoho Analytics, and there's just so much to talk about. I should back up a little bit. Every one of the Zoho apps, just about all of them, has its own reporting. You go into CRM and there's a report section. Those reports can only report on the data inside CRM. If you wanted to have a report showing maybe dollars sold to this company, that would be in Zoho Books. And if you also wanted to see like how many Zoho desk tickets or how much time they took out of your support staff, that's in Zoho Desk. So you'd have to go into Desk and get that data, and you'd have to go into Books and get the financial data, and then you'd have to aggregate it yourself. Zoho will allow us to combine all that plus external data that's not even Zoho based at all. So I'm going to show you that to begin with. We're going to go into Zoho. We will go into the, there's a few concepts here I have to explain. We'll go to the home page. There's these things called workspaces. Workspaces are collections of data. They're separate from each other. You cannot join data. This would appear here that we have Zoho Books in a separate workspace from CRM. Actually, I've set it up twice. I've also have Books inside here. So, but I could have a workspace of maybe highly sensitive data that I just want to keep separate from all the other data. And so we could create a workspace and we could give certain users access to it. So there's this term called a workspace. And in fact, I could create one here. I'm not going to go through the whole process, but I'm going to show you how it goes through because this gives you an idea of what we can do. And I'm going to click this import your data button, and they're going to ask you what kind of data is it. And this gives you an idea. For instance, QuickBooks. If you use QuickBooks, you can import, there's desktop analytics. This is, I believe, the QuickBooks Online data. Here's the Zoho Finance data. So there's Zoho data, Sales IQ, even competitive CRM products like Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. I could import data from that. The real powerful stuff are like the local databases. This could be a SQL server in your server room. We can connect that to Zoho. We've done this. It's really nice. There could be, we had one company does insurance data and all their claims are processed on a large SQL server in the office, but they wanted to analyze it, and they use Zoho Analytics as the reporting tool. And we can actually combine it with CRM data. I could have data up on a cloud, Google Drive. Cloud databases are like Amazon Redshift, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. I could even just report on an Excel file. And then you go down here, there's things like Shopify, Sage Accounting, MailChimp, Facebook ads, and it just goes on and on, Twitter. Some of these things are in beta. Generally, when you see them in beta, they're still pretty good. They're almost done. I could also just build my own database right up here and start entering data into my own. And then here you can request a data source. So if you use a program and you want to connect it, you can ask them and they'll make a vote for it. So, there's dozens and dozens of data sources here, and you can bring it in. So if I were to click on QuickBooks, they're going to ask you to authenticate. You have to pick your QuickBooks account. They got to know which QuickBooks account to connect to. And then, so every one of these kind of has a different setup process depending on how it works. If I go to Zoho Finance, they kind of know who we are. But again, I go through here and I give my workspace a name. I might have multiple organizations. We haven't really talked about the Zoho Finance products yet, but you can have multiple company organizations in Zoho. You don't know which one to connect to. So this is a way to bring, this is just to drive home the point that you can aggregate data from a lot of different places and start combining it and reporting on it. Once you connect to some data, I'm now going to go back to cancel out of here. Go back here. We're going to go into the CRM space. This one's already been set up, and this is a gotcha for a lot of people. So there's some tables in here: accounts, contacts, deals, leads, and users. If I click on the leads table, this looks like an Excel sheet. It's data. It is the raw data of the leads module. Tells me I have 72 rows. It's funny, if I go into CRM, I believe in my leads module, we have 69. And a little secret, when you convert a lead to a contact, I always told people it disappears out of leads. But in reality, it's still a lead. It's just hidden. It's also a contact. So you won't see it in two places. You only see it in one. But it's there in the table, and you can get at it through analytics. So the gotcha I wanted to talk about was this CRM reports. These are the data sources feeding this workspace. And we have three, actually. We have CRM, Desk, and Sales IQ. I know the finance stuff was in a different one, but I could also bring it in here. If I bring these three different programs into one workspace, I can combine the data. If I bring them into separate workspaces, they're separate users, separate, there's walls between them. So I'm gonna, if I am the super user of Zoho, I will be able to go into this data source. Before I do that, the last sync was at 5:31 yesterday, and the next scheduled one is 5 o'clock, or 5:03 yesterday, is scheduled for 5 o'clock tonight. So we're doing a daily sync of multiple tables. I could do a sync now and force it. I'm going to click on this and get some details. Only the admins can get in here, the super admin. It shows me down here that these are the tables I am synchronizing, which is what you get by default. Deals, contacts, leads, users, and accounts. What you don't see here are like activities, phone calls. If I wanted to report on phone calls, I'd have to add that, manually go in here and change it. If I have a custom module in my CRM, I need to go in here and add that. So I'm going to go to this edit setup here. and show you a final gotcha. It says here I'm synchronizing leads, but you'll see most of the fields in leads are not synchronizing. Zip code is not synchronizing. I might want that. And city, I might want that. The little checked ones that are gray, these are being synchronized. But if you have custom fields, they're probably not going to be on by default. You're going to have to add them. You could also just click on this box and say, I want everything. Some of the fields in here, like average time spent on the website, you may want to report on that, but maybe you don't. Or the salutation, whether they're Mr. or Mrs. I'm not sure that's a very reportable field, but we're going to bring it over anyway. There is a limit of 100 fields. So if your leads or your contacts has 100 or 200 user-defined fields, you're not going to get them all. You're going to have to be selective about what you bring in. So I went to leads, said do them all. I could go to accounts, do them all. I could go to contacts, do them all. Here's activities. So if I want phone calls, again, I don't get all the fields. I don't get the call result. To me, that's kind of crazy. I'd like to know not only how many phone calls I made, but I'd like to know the result. So we'll do everything there. Then there's other modules here that are not turned on by default, including like we have a custom module here called jobs. It was from a previous training session, and maybe I want to do that. So I say, and then down here is the sync time. Another thing that can confuse a lot of people is the data does not move instantaneously across the system. The fastest you can synchronize is every 3 hours. So if, salesmen before a big sales meeting, they update all their opportunities because they're kind of cramming to get things right. And then they go run their reports and they don't see the data. It's because they've missed the bus and they got to wait 3 hours or a day. In our case, it was a day. Since this is a demo system, I'm going to leave it at a day. It's at 5 o'clock every day on Greenwich time. This database happens to be on GMT. And so now I can wait for the next sync, which is 5 p.m. GMT, but I'm going to do a sync now. This can take, I don't know, 2 to 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of the database. This database is very small. I don't think it'll take too long. They're just warning me that you can force the issue. You can always do a manual sync. If someone goes in here, they can click sync now and update the data right now. You can only do that 5 times between your schedules. We're scheduled daily, so I could do this 5 times. I could force it 5 times. So that's just the data source. This is connecting to my CRM, and we're just telling it what data to sync. You may not want to sync. There are limits as to how much data you can bring in. It's in the millions of rows. I can go to settings here and resources, I believe. That tells me I've used 134 rows. Doesn't tell me how many I'm total allowed to. I think that's across all of them. I have to go over here. I'll just show you. You get a lot of data, but you can hit too much. I'm allowed, in this little demo system, we're allowed 5 million rows of data, and we've used 262. So, and we have, there's some other things here, scheduled emails. So just to go through some of these features, a scheduled email is we can actually write a report and we could mail it to people every night at 5 o'clock. Like, here's what happened today. We can also bring in data on a schedule, bring in data from these external databases and say, make that happen every day. So there's some features in here that probably won't get to today. This is where I pick my users. I can also set security as to what they can do. We'll go back to our space. So I've got 5 million rows here. And again, Bob and I have both worked on systems where that was exceeded. If you sync a database on a user's desktop, would data be available to others? Yes. I'll touch on that briefly. If I go back to the super admin panel here, there's a thing called a data bridge, and a data bridge is a piece of software that you can put on a server. In fact, I'll click on download the data bridge. You'll see it allows Windows, Linux, and Macs. And it can connect to all kinds of databases, not just SQL, but Oracle, Access, Excel data. But depending on what kind of machine it is, you download it. It assigns a special code to the data bridge that connects it to your Zoho Analytics account in the cloud. And again, this will synchronize data every X hours or daily off of your desktop up into Zoho. And it's a way to get data off your machine or off a server. We've used it. It's a nice little tool. Haven't set one up here, but we, in production, we do. The data bridge, again, is a way to get, if the database you want to connect to is not in the cloud, but sits on a machine in your office, we have to put this tool on that machine to get the data up into Zoho. Thanks for the question, Lori. Okay, well, let's make a report. I'm going to go back to Zoho CRM workspace. I'm going, see, I've got more tables now. I got the jobs table. I got my phone calls table. These were things we just turned on in sync. I'm going to go to data sources here and just see if my sync is still in progress. So my tables got created. My data might not be done yet. It can take a few minutes, but we're going to write reports anyway. So let's just look at phone calls and see if we have anything yet. We might have an empty table. We do. We got all our data columns here, but nothing in it yet. It's coming. So let's create a report. There's a little create button here. So I'll hit create, and there's all these options. We can't go through them all, but I could create a data table of data that I want to either import from a spreadsheet. We can write queries. I'm going to skip that. Here's where I can do a chart. And then I can do pivot tables and I can do dashboards. Pretty much you're going to work in charts and pivot view. So I'll do a chart. Again, this data here is not very full or robust, but I'm going to click on a chart. It says, what table do I want to report on? And I'll pick the leads. So I can, it says, what do you want the X and the Y axis to be? I think I actually want, like, the X axis, I think, will be the state. And so I'll just drag state here. And then the Y axis will just be a count of how many people are in that state. So I'm going to take a field like the lead ID, which is just a number we assign to the lead, and I'm going to count them. Just count how many. And I'll generate the graph. So, well, we got most of them are in the unknown state. So, but, that's a graph. We could do a field here like lead status could be the color. I don't know what we're going to get, but let's try that. This is going to add a third dimension to the graph where the status here is whether it's a good lead or a bad lead or whatever. And again, I might not want a side-by-side bar graph. I might want a stack bar graph, so we can do that. And then I could filter out the unknowns because they're just screwing up my graph. So I'm going to go to filters here, and I'm going to go to, was it state, right? And I'll take unknown. Now, normally it includes unknown, but I actually want to exclude unknown. So let's view that. And the unknown's gone, and now I just have states. So I want to throw out the bad data. So these are filters. Again, I can't go into all the, like a bar chart could be, you can spend a lot of time doing a lot of stuff here. There's other types of charts. So there's a combo chart with lines in There's a scatter chart. I'm going to click on these three dots, and we have a bar with an area with a line. That's kind of silly. Size of the bubble. But there's a couple of interesting charts here. Let's go back to this chart. Actually, what I want to show you are, if I change the state here, right now it's just a text field, but I can actually say, treat it as a geolocation. Treat it as a state. And now, let's go back. I can click on this map chart, and it'll give me a map. All right, let's just take this a step further. I'll take the colors off. This little 7 here says these are unresolved locations, and I want to talk about that for a minute because this is little things that trip you up. If I click on the unresolved locations, well, see, I have a state called LA, and it doesn't know what to do with that. Here's a good example, CA. To us, CA means California, but in Canada, CA means Canada. There's a Swiss canton with a postal code of CA. So what I really want to do is I want to tell it that they should consider this to be the United States. Just assume that these are United States locations. And if I hit save, you'll see the number of unresolved locations went to 0. And it actually figured out that these states, LA now is not Lithuania or something. I don't even know, Latvia, I guess. It gets confused. So there's like some artificial intelligence to this. I could have done it by zip code and taken this much more granularly. Can show you that if we have it. There's zip code. So I'll turn state off, and I'll just take zip code and put it on. Again, treat it as a geo. I don't even know if this data has a lot of zip codes populated, but we can look at it. And now you can see, like in Illinois, we actually have a 60. It looks like a lot of them are missing. Again, we have to tell it what country. I actually found out my home zip code is also used in France because our office is like showing up in France. Okay. So I'll tell it that these are US zip codes. And again, now we have them in Ohio here. You see we have 3. So you can do some map type graphs, and there's heat maps. There's a bubble. I could have like a bubble pie graph. That's just layering data on top of data as to how many junk leads versus contacted leads we have in LA. So that's just a quick picture of a chart. And all I did was drag over my tables, my fields. I can also, you can see all my other fields here. So I might want to say, well, look at like the dollar amount in deals. And I don't know if any of these are leads. They won't have deals, but I could put the dollars in here and say, instead of counting leads, let's sum the dollars. Leads don't have deals. I'd have to make this out of context, but this is how you can start mixing and matching your data. This is one graph. We give it a name. And save it. There's a little save button here. I can give descriptions. I can save it in some folders. I'll show you in the Explorer. There's a lot of folders to organize reports because you could have hundreds of reports. And then I can go to view mode, and this is what it looks like. Why is no data available? Oh, I changed because I put the dollars from the deal in there. That was a bad idea. Go back to edit the design. Come on. Go back to counting lead IDs. Save it. View it, and there it's showing whatever type of graph I had. Also in view mode, I don't have to commit to a type of graph. I can actually change this to a heat map. Drill in a little bit. So that's one graph. Now, another neat feature of this is that you can combine many graphs into what's called a dashboard. And Zoho gives you some canned dashboards. So I'll show you one of theirs just to give you an idea what we're looking at. For instance, we have a salesperson's performance dashboard. Keep in mind our data is pretty empty here, but this dashboard is made up of many reports. And in fact, across the top, we have what are called widgets. They're just little cards with prices in them. So I'm looking at all salespeople. We won a deal, $45,000, win rate of 100%. I closed that deal this morning. Just went into CRM and did it. Top 5 salespersons last year. This system didn't exist last year. Top salespeople, here. So these are just reports that we made. Now I can go into this edit design, and I could actually take my zip code report and say I want to put it right there. And I'll save it. It's going into this dashboard. So you make all your individual reports, and then you put them in the dashboard. And then you can view your results. And by the way, there's a universal filter up here. If I only want to see just Homer, I can have some filters, or I might want to see just sales for this month, or maybe by only one product line. So you can have these drop down in a certain date range, say okay, and then everything will filter. Say there's none of those records were Homers, I guess. So I'll reset that. So the next thing I want to show you that's kind of neat is you build this report. There's a sharing over here. You want to get this report out into people's hands. All it is a web page. You can share it to people. I could email it to them every week. I could just make it public. I can embed it into a website or something. I can export this report as a PDF file. Individual reports I can actually export into Excel. And if I go back to share here and I say URL, I just wanted to show you this. This report now is on the web. Here's the URL of it. And there's some options down here. We can refresh every 2 minutes. But I can go back into CRM. There's a little feature here in the customization where I can add this report to CRM. So I'm going to go to modules and fields. I'm going to go to web tabs. I'm going to add a new tab called salesperson dashboard. This might have our accounting data on it from QuickBooks. So I call it a link, and there's the URL. Then I pick who in the company will have access to it. Hit save. So now this report is actually one of the, it's right down here, and I'm in CRM, and I can click on it, and I can view the report. So this is a way to, again, bring in data from, like I said, QuickBooks or Shopify and actually display it inside CRM. You don't have to make your users leave CRM, go into analytics, sign in, find the report, and run it. I could have mailed it to them. Maybe they don't want to get so much mail. They just want to go in here and look. So 33 minutes to kind of do high-level flyover of analytics. Bring in data from disparate sources, combine it, build your reports the way you want. They also have a way of making it look prettier. Like there's a thing here called themes. I build this thing, I go, you know, it's kind of bland looking, but I'm going to just make it like dark and I'll make it colorful. And I can customize it. I had a client in Pittsburgh and they were all big Steelers fans. So I built a template out of Steelers colors and they were happy with it. So there's my report now. This is really bad to look at. So I think I'll change the theme back to something else. Light blue, and we'll pick this theme. A little bit better. If I save it, you'll see I go back to CRM, I'll do a refresh. The changes copy over. So, and we've done some really nice looking reports. I'm kind of proud of what we do here. There's my changes. My zip code report is down here somewhere. So, thing about most CRM systems, we've been selling them a long time. It's easy to get the data into them. It's sometimes hard to get the data out. You know, we all feed these databases, but then you want to like make some decisions. You want to see what the trends are, and you just want to see a graph or you know, predictions. By the way, Zoho is doing a lot of work in artificial intelligence, and they have this thing called ZIA, which is Zoho's intelligent agent, and you can sometimes ask questions, you know, new leads this year, and it helps to type it. And sometimes they will just write the report for you. So they got this as a tabular report, and then another report, and then they'll have some graphs down here. You know what? Let's change the and just say graph of new leads this year. And so you can play with this because it's actually it's telling you what it's doing over here. Again, it's functions. It'll write queries. And also it has a ZIA voice. You can talk to it. Let's try that. List of all contacts. All right, try it again. List of all contacts. Well, looks like it's not going to work. I told it to use my microphone. So that's a quick look at Zoho Analytics. It is very powerful. The ZIA will do predictive type stuff. Again, we can bring in data from a lot of places. We can present it just about any way you want, even with maps. The one thing I think it's a little weak on is calendars. Calendars to me are a form of report because it shows me data the way we're used to looking at it. Not real happy with what it does there. But as far as graphs and pivot tables and things like that, you can build them quickly if you understand what you're doing. And you can put them in dashboards and publish them pretty quick. We did that today from scratch. So. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you.